Hi, I'm Hugh Murphy, and today I'm going to be taking you through the steps associated with making a mask using surgical wrap. The things you'll need to make the mask today are 2 sheets of surgical wrap cut 12 by 12, a nose insert. This is a piece of aluminum that was supplied to me by the hospital. They are available online. You could also use either jewelry wire, 16 gauge, or I have seen floral wire used that's been double wrapped. You're also going to need 2 pieces of 1/4 inch flat elastic cut to approximately 11 inches. Something to cut the fabric with, either rotary cutters or scissors, and then something to hold the mask while you sew it. You can use pins, quilter's clips, binder clips. You'll need something to measure the placement of the nose abutment and something to mark that. And most importantly, of course, the pattern. Now this pattern is 11 wide by 5 high so that we have a finished size for the mask of 10 wide by 4 high. Surgical wrap is very different than sewing with traditional quilting fabric or any kind of fabric. It sort of has a mind of its own. 2 things. You may find that it has a bound selvage when you get it. If it does, cut that off because it's not usable. You can't turn the mask effectively with the selvage in it. Secondly, you cannot iron this or treat it with heat in any way because that makes it absolutely ineffective. And when you remove the clips and the template, you'll have 4 pieces of surgical wrap. And we're going to sew today with the blue side of the surgical wrap to the outside, or considering that the good side. The first thing you're going to want to do is take the fabric and turn it with 1/2 inch seam allowance underneath. Now, if you'll notice on the template, there is a straight edge at the very bottom of the template that is 1 inch. So if you turn that halfway to where it just begins to curve, you should have a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this side. So turn it all the way down, because otherwise it will creep and it will be difficult to sew. And you're going to want to do this for both pieces of the mask. Turn the blue side over on the green side. Sew as close to the left edge as you're comfortable. And I backstitch at the beginning and the end of each section of the mask. And then leave it in place, turn and sew back in the other direction. Once we've got both halves of the mask sewn, we're going to place the nose abutment. On both ends of the mask, measure in approximately 3.5 inches. And that will show you where the nose abutment should fall once it's in place. Very carefully thread it in the channel that you've made with your stitching. Now, the aluminum especially can be a little fiddly, and you may have to just coax it along. But when you do, the nose abutment should be centered in the middle of the mask piece. On the other half of the mask, turn it so that the right side is up. Take your 2 pieces of elastic and clip them in place at the end of the mask. Make sure it's at the end of the mask, and I'm going to stitch over it about 3 times to make sure that it's very tightly held in place because we don't want any possibility that the elastic will come loose. Make sure that you do this at both ends of the mask. Take both halves of the mask and put them right sides together. Now you're going to want to use your pins or bindery clips or quilter's clips. Clip both halves together, leaving about 1 inch on the flat side of the mask here, or the edge of the mask closest to the face, so that you can sew across this whenever you get it to the sewing machine. Clip all along, making sure that you have good registration of the points here at the end, and also where the elastic is joined at the bottom of the mask. And using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so all the way around the outside of the mask. We're only going to do this once because we're going to turn the mask and triple stitch the front to make sure that seam is nice and secure. Turn it, making sure that you push out corners such as at the front of the mask and just above where the elastic is attached. Don't use any kind of sharp tool to turn the corners because it could damage the fabric. Make sure everything is popped out. You'll want to clip it in place. At this point, you will be sewing through 8 layers of surgical mask and 2 layers of elastic. Many machines will find that difficult to actually insert the needle through. One of the things that helps me is if I come in about 3/4 of an inch and start sewing and then back stitch over it the other way. And the last thing I do, of course, is measure it to make sure that it's remained true to the dimensions they've requested. 4 inches by 10 inches. And there we have it. This mask is finished and ready to provide to our healthcare professionals who desperately need our help. Thank you.